Welcome to Torch of Fantasy Basketball. I'm KE. I also go by Kebabs. I love NBA basketball and made it my mission to come out on top of my fantasy league this year, which I kinda did, but with an asterisk. I believe in finding balance takes backed by stats and a healthy dose of my own feelings. If you're looking for some potentially useful fantasy talk or recaps on NBA news, you're in the right place. Hello guys, what's up? Okay, I don't know. Hey guys. Um Welcome to another episode of Torch of Fantasy Basketball. I guess this is the first episode of the season. Um and yeah, I don't really know if I'm gonna keep doing this. I'm mostly doing this just because I still have some energy for it. We have just the 2021-2022 NBA season has just gotten started. And so we are about to start and roll into another season of fantasy basketball. And so the first thing I want to do today was just talk about, first and foremost, for all you guys who are drafting out there, if you guys are probably already drafted, but if you guys haven't, these are some tips and or things to note for this upcoming season of fantasy basketball. So let's just get started. Season 2 of fantasy, episode 1. Um, yeah, that's I just wanted to say before we get started that last year I didn't play fantasy. I didn't do the podcast episode. One, partially because of COVID, and two, mostly because I the first year of fantasy torch of fantasy basketball didn't go so hot. Just in terms of like I won my league, the league that I was trying really hard for, but it didn't taste right. COVID, everyone dying, heroes passing away, all that good stuff. And so I didn't feel like doing another episode. I was also kind of just tired of Twitter, just tired of being on media. So I like shut up for a little bit and let the NBA season run its course. And after one full season, I can say I am really happy I took a year break. Even now, I don't even know if I want to do this episode, but hey, you know what? The people have been asking for it, so I'm here to abide by the people's needs. Um, so I want to start episode 1 just talking about like 5 things you need to know about fantasy this year, before you start drafting. And so number 1, I would say is, okay, number 1, I should just point out my finger. Don't overreact to powerful fantasy successes, especially auction leagues. And what I mean by that is don't jump the gun, guys. I implore you to not jump the gun in terms of overshooting, especially for certain players in both like category auction leagues, especially auction leagues. Try not to jump the gun and pick a player way outside where they normally belong, honestly. Um, and I after watching the 2020 19 NBA season and playing through that, and if you were listening to my podcast, I appreciate you. Obviously, I give you guys hearts, but I appreciate. But yeah, 2019 was a bum year for certain players. So 2020, as a result, certain players were undervalued, undersold, while other players were oversold or overvalued. Um, and you know what? Now it's 2021. Now it's 2021, 21, 22, and I'm noticing the same patterns that are happening in this fantasy season. And yeah, so I think the biggest thing is just like try not to reach too hard, because you can definitely screw up a team by overreaching for players, based on the hype, and why preseason is such a a non-factor in terms of accounting for fantasy success is that a lot of these players who are being rostered in the preseason are is mostly just for the coaches to understand, what rotations they need to be playing, what players they need to throw out there, kind of seeing the health and general well-being of the star players that they do have. So like there's outside of like the top 20 fantasy studs we got out there who are guaranteed to play, trying to avoid just getting caught up in the hype. So if you've heard the name in the news, it's enough to be hype worthy, and so just keep an eye on that. And because hey, because this is good news for you, right? Because if people are trying to reach and overreach in the draft, there's gonna be players who fall to you at a later point in the draft, and so just kind of picking who you know is going to be available, who deserves to be in the top 20, top 30, whichever you're in, is going to give you such a huge advantage. So just don't forget to just let others do the guessing, right? Because more often than not, the stats don't lie. Um, Two players that I will take note of are Anthony Davis, who has gotten a very, very hard knock in terms of fantasy, especially compared to last year. Last year, he was injured for part of the season, coming back, his free throw percentage is really off, and it really hurt his value. Um, but it does not make him any less of a player. Um, Fantasy, like what I noticed last year was a lot of the people who were playing in the bubble, namely the Lakers and the Miami Heat, a lot of the players on those teams ended up getting injured during the beginning half of the season. Um, and that really was just like a huge detriment to a lot of fantasy teams. So yeah, AD, Anthony Davis, got a lot of snubs this year. And so you will see him in the later parts of these drafts. And I don't think he should be taken any less seriously. If anything, he's had an extra year of break before this year's fantasy season and will likely do well. I'm just gonna call it. I don't really care if I'm wrong. And if you guys are hearing this, then this will probably help you. Second thing I wanted to know is that wanted you guys to know, number two, when you're playing fantasy, you're gonna be going up against other people in your league, and not necessarily you're not like fighting. You're not fighting Anthony Davis. You're not fighting Giannis. You're not gonna be fighting Joel. You're gonna be fighting the other guys. And what I mean by that is that be sure to play to the like if you're playing with other people that you likely know, you also know their biases and their tendencies. Maybe they have a penchant for 3-point shooters. Maybe they have everyone has like an old boomer mentality, and they're thinking, hey, let's just pick up all the centers because centers win leagues, right? Even though the game has definitely shifted way off the key and way deeper into the 3-point line. And so yeah, play the other people in your league, and understand which players are going to be overvalued, especially if there's been a lot of talk by your league members about certain players, and just kind of use that to your advantage. And this is like broad information that I'm really hoping can help you excel in your league, because it's way too hard for me to encapsulate all the points of all the different aspects of a points league versus a category league versus an auction league, and all the different types of leagues out there. But this is something that is just tried and true, just like playing to the biases of the people in your league. My third thing that I want to remind everyone is that injuries hold no prisoners, right? There is a new NBA rule in place that is not allowing players to draw fake foul charges. So you'll notice way back when, I guess way back when isn't correct. Like last year, players like Anthony Davis, James Harden, Steph Curry, people who are outside deep in the arc, were very capable of drawing the defensive fouls from the opposing defense. And really all it took is for the defender to leave their feet, and kind of for the star players to kind of jump into the bodies of these defenders and just draw the foul. And there's like three easy points. Well, there's a new rule that is going to be limiting that, and so a lot of refs will be avoiding those calls for this 2021-2020 season, 22 season. How does that affect our fantasy things? There's no immediate effects. A lot of the star players will probably be getting less free throws, getting less points. And I think the biggest effect is actually that a lot of these players, though a lot of defenders in the NBA are likely to be, on the up and up about not doing any shady fouls, trying to allow the players to land safely. Sometimes when you're in the heat of the basketball moment, you slide your feet under the player's feet, and someone just happens to get a little hurt. And these NBA refs aren't going to make that call, and we're going to see more and more of that. That's what I'm guessing. And you're going to see players hurt. It is what it is. It's probably going to happen. It's just like the law of science thing where molecules bounce around and they all hit each other, and it's more likely to happen that these players are going to get injured. And what that means is that a lot of players, no one is going to be immune to these like effects. I think people are going to get injured closer to the end of the season, which could be a huge detriment to a lot of these teams, and you're never going to know. I guess the biggest takeaway is you're not going to change much, but don't try to avoid players because of their spotless injury history, because someone's going to get hurt. It's just a matter of time. It's just unavoidable at this point. And so we'll see how the rest of the NBA season goes. Yeah, just keep that in mind. And point number 4 that I want to make. Did I do point number 3 already? Did I do that yet? Point number 4 that I wanted to make. ADPs suck this year. I don't know what's happening. So in my second episode of the podcast I made like 2 years ago, I recommended everyone just base it on ADP. But I noticed that the ADP has been very shifty around the ranges of 50 to 70, 50 to 80, 50 to 100. It's a little bit of a toss-up this year onto like who is going to get the most playing time, the most star power, the rotations. It's all just like one big question mark right now. For me, I mean, I'll do more research as the season goes along, but I'm just telling you what I know at the moment. And I also noticed that there's a lot more people playing fantasy basketball. I don't know. I don't have the stats on that. I could probably look it up, but I don't want to. But I have a feeling there's a lot more people playing, probably likely because of COVID. And when you have more people playing who don't know what they're doing, ADPs are often tend to kind of shift one way or the other, right? Mostly because the average draft pick can vary so widely, especially in past the 50th rank player, right? So when you're doing the draft and you're not really sure who to pick, I guess, make sure to sort by both ADP and X rank. I will say the Yahoo ranking, and I still always hold that ESPN rankings are hot garbage, so just exclude that. But you can also use other resources like I think Josh Lloyd has like Basketball Monster, or there's other podcasts for that reason. I don't fucking know, mate. All right, I'm just gonna call it as it is. When you're there in the moment and you didn't do any research and you didn't have enough time, just sort by ADP or X rank. It's gonna save you so much time. How I do it is if I'm not sure who I pick, I sort by ADP to see who people are normally picking in case their players are getting neglected. And then I sort by X rank to see if there's any players who stand out on the stat sheet. And if there's a player that happens to be on both ADP and X rank, I think it's a pretty safe bet to kind of just pick them up. Even if they're not going to be a great fit for your team, I think this is a strong pick. and you're kind of letting the system do the work for you essentially. And this is for Yahoo leagues, by the way. When I say X rank, I don't know. I honestly don't remember what ESPN uses, but it's probably something like that. And the fifth thing that I wanted to say for this year's fantasy drafts, if you guys are doing fantasy basketball this year, take these expert advice with a like a chunk, like with a grain of salt. But I'm not talking about like the small teensy kinds. I'm talking about like the fat Himalayan sea salt, chunky ass grains of salt. Okay, these guys, everyone is, I don't know. There's a lot of people who are trying to be experts in this fantasy realm, but no one's going to be able to predict what is going to happen. And at the end of the day, it's going to be up to you during your draft to decide the decision you're going to make. There's no one else there. You're not going to have these experts holding your hand. I did see that Yahoo has a pay to win thing. I'm not going to pay to win, but I'm just kind of curious, like, what is this? Do I really want to trust this? And I think more often than not, the answer is no. I don't trust it. Yeah, these experts, most people, I don't think, no one really calls them out for their shit. I think it's just how it is. Like, no one's calling, people who are so-called experts made calls last year and they were very, very wrong. It's just how it goes. It's just fantasy basketball. You can't like predict any of these injuries. You can't predict any one thing to happen. And so that's it for this episode. I don't have much else. I appreciate you guys if you guys are here listening to this. This means a lot. I want a Patreon and stuff, but I don't really know what. We'll get there. Hey, I'm also streaming on twitch.tv/kkebabs. Twitch.tv/kkebabs. I'll do the torch part live. So I'll make maybe a better episode out of this, but for the moment, this is what I got. So I hope you guys enjoyed. And yeah, stay tuned. I'll try to post this like maybe bi-weekly or once every week. But yeah, please subscribe. I really appreciate it. And yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. Appreciate you guys. Here, I'll do the thing. All right, guys. Thank you guys. Bye.